Family, welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report presented by Prize Picks. Guys, on today's show, we're going to be discussing the events of Day 2 of OTAs for the Los Angeles Rams. And what's important about Day 2 of OTAs for your Rams is it's the first session that was fully open to the Rams media. So a lot to discuss coming out of this one from a lot of different LA Rams beat reporters who got the opportunity to not only watch the on-field portion of OTAs today, but also to talk to a number of major Rams after that on-field session was done. Can't say practices around OTAs. Got to help myself from doing that. But they spoke to Matthew Stafford, they spoke to Sean McVay, and they even got a chance to speak to Puka Nacua, the first time he has spoken to media since entering a holistic rehab facility. So a lot to discuss on today's show. Let's get it started with our four major topics. The first of which actually has nothing to do with any of the OTA stuff I was just telling you about. Little fake out here. We got a joint practice update early on today, though. Actually not from anyone involved with the Rams, but from one Kellen Moore, former Eagles offensive coordinator and now head coach of the New Orleans Saints. He confirmed to Saints media, which was then reported by the Rams Wire, which is where I saw it, so shout out to those guys, that we will be playing or having joint practices, with the New Orleans Saints out at our place in California this summer in Woodland Hills. So that is the first joint practice team we've learned about this offseason so far. It'll be the New Orleans Saints coming out to see us at our place. Usually we do a couple joint practices with a couple different teams, so it makes sense. We at least got one on the schedule here with New Orleans. We'll continue to monitor that as we get more information on who the Rams are having joint practice sessions with throughout the rest of this offseason. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on all of that news and everything else around the Los Angeles Rams. But let's keep it rolling on today's video with our next topic. And I think this one just broadly, we're going to bucket it as the quarterbacks. Our discussion of our QBs, because they were out on the field together, and we finally got some pictures of it that aren't straight from the teams themselves. This is our first photo of Matt Stafford and Ty Simpson throwing at the same time. I tweeted this one out, and I made a little joke about Stetson Bennett. I said, the present, the future, and Stetson Bennett. And some people, they took exception to that. We're having fun. We're having fun. No disrespect meant to Stetson Bennett. But it is interesting to see Ty Simpson get his first open media work with the Los Angeles Rams. And everything that I saw, guys, looks really good. You start to really appreciate what this team sees in Ty Simpson, what they liked about Ty Simpson. And of course, this is throwing in shorts. You know what I mean? He's out here in gym shorts and a t-shirt, basically chucking the rock around. This is not real football for my football purists. I totally understand. Not huge takeaways here. But from what you can take away, he's doing well. Mechanically, he looks really sound. And everything we've heard about him from everybody around him remains really positive. And speaking of somebody who's had high praise for Ty Simpson lately, let's hear from Matthew Stafford next on today's show. He sat down with the media stood up near the media, really, to be more accurate, and spoke about a number of different topics after his field work. Very similar stuff to what we heard from the Pat McAfee show, but a couple of extra notes that you absolutely need to hear on today's show. And we're going to get to that in just 1 minute, but first we got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, guys, and that's America's #1 sports picks app, our friends over at Prize Picks. Guys, if you are a regular viewer of the Rams Report, you know I love Prize Picks. I love watching sports with a Prize Picks lineup because it just makes it even more exciting. And if you've never played on Prize Picks, A, what are you waiting for? But B, today is a great time to get started. The NBA playoffs are underway. The baseball season is in full swing as well. And there's just no better place to cash in on all that action than Prize Picks. And guys, it is so easy to play. If you've never played with Prize Picks before, all you have to do is pick from 2 to 6 players to put together your lineup. You're picking more or less on their stat projections, whether you're picking from points, rebounds, assists, assists or all 3 combined like we did on our lineup that we've got going here. We're going with the more on SGA. We're going with the more on Victor Wembanyama. So you guys can tail me on this lineup, and PrizePicks makes it super easy to do so with their social feeds feature. Just drop a follow on my profile, Jackson Durham with no spaces, and you guys can see all of my latest lineups, including that one, and you can easily tailor fade them with just one click. And if you're new to PrizePicks, make sure you use our promo code when you sign up. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. As always, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. We really appreciate them. Let's get back to our discussion of what we heard from Matthew Stafford here. He says he understood the decision to draft Ty Simpson. Once again, and we're not going to make a huge deal of it because I know regular viewers of the show are getting pretty tired of hearing me say Matthew Stafford is pretty happy about the pick of Ty Simpson. He's on board with the pick of Ty Simpson. But again, it just bears repeating. Everything we've heard from Matthew Stafford about this pick, about this kid, has been positive. So if you are still out there spreading narratives that Stafford's not happy, you're doing that for no reason. Stafford's not with you on that train, buddy. You are all by yourself. But let's keep rolling. Let's leave that one where we have over the last couple of days. Let's talk about something maybe a little bit more important here. Matthew Stafford spoke about his next season. Not 2026, which we obviously know he's going to be here in 2026. But he spoke about 2027 a little bit and the extension that he signed. He said, I'm happy to have next year taken care of if I decide to play. And then he kind of added jokingly, and they want me back. All right. So again, we continue to hear the same narrative from Matthew Stafford of, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. They straight up asked him today, do you plan to retire as a Ram? And his answer is not a guaranteed yes. Here's what he had to say. I'm not going to sit here and try to predict the future. That would probably be a yes, but I don't know what's going to happen. I do love playing here. I love playing for this organization, and my family loves it here. Well, I got to say, Matthew, we love you, man. We want you here as long as you want to be here. I know the organization drafted Ty Simpson, and we're on board with that decision, but that does not mean that Matthew Stafford does not have to retire a Ram or shouldn't get to retire a Ram if that is what he wants to do. And I really feel that it is. And if you want Matthew Stafford to retire as a Ram, comment me for me on today's video. Give me a me in the comment section if you want to see Matthew Stafford retire as a Ram. But let's keep rolling here, guys, because, again, I just think keeping Matthew Stafford happy and keeping him around has been a focus for this team. He jokes about them not wanting him back, but I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I understand they made the decision to draft Ty Simpson, but I think that's a decision made understanding that Stafford has a limited timeline, not because there's any sense of we're ready to see Stafford go. I think the Rams want Stafford here as long as he is willing to be here because he makes everyone else on this team better, especially our guy Puka Nacua, who spoke to media today, which did surprise me. Straight up, I'm going to be honest with you guys, did not expect this. Did not expect the Rams to make Puka available for media for a variety of different reasons with everything that's been going on around him. But he chose to speak to media. They chose to make him available. And thus we have his first interviews with Rams media since entering rehab. And of course, there are a lot of questions that they wanted to ask him about those things. And, you know, to his credit, I think he did a really good job of answering them. He didn't run from it. He said he learned a lot. He turns 25 tomorrow. Happy early birthday to Puka Nacua, by the way. Comment HBD Puka in the comment section to wish him a happy birthday. And he said he learned that it is okay to ask for support, that it's okay to ask for help during his eventful offseason. He also expressed a lot of appreciation for his teammates and for their support of him in this journey. He said he's worked with a team therapist, attended weekly meetings, and started journaling since he got out of holistic rehab. So our first confirmation, he is done with the holistic rehab program. He is no longer in the holistic rehab program. And he says his contract is not on his mind. That, I think, I think everything that was said in that is important. That's going to be the hyper-focus point. And obviously so, right? Puka, for the first time, commenting on his upcoming contract situation. Commenting on what everybody kind of knows, but everybody doesn't really want to say will be coming very soon for this Rams team. It's absolutely going to happen. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion. And I think in the Rams and Puka's opinion as well. I think everybody knows that this is coming. I think these two sides have an understanding of the timeline for this deal that is comfortable for both of them and of the benchmarks that Puka needs to hit off the field for that timeline to remain what it currently is. And I think he's very much on track to doing so. Lastly, he declined to comment on the allegations against him from the lawsuit filed earlier this year, which is still pending. He did add a moment for me to learn from. Kind of some of the situations I was putting myself in, and then also having just an awareness of how I'm conducting myself. Which, hey, that's what we talked about when we talked about these situations. At the end of the day, I think it's as simple as that for Puka. It's about being more aware of who you are and the responsibility that comes with being Puka Nacua. Because Puka Nacua is no longer just a 24-year-old guy. He's about to be 25. In all seriousness, though, he is an NFL superstar. His role comes with an enormous amount of responsibility. And he has to own that responsibility in the public eye. And I think he's starting to learn how to do that. At least he's telling us he's starting to learn how to do that. And I think he needs to continue to show with his actions that he has learned how to do that. Well, let's round out today's show with a discussion of the Rams' new secondary. Some of those members coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs. I almost said the Chiefs' new secondary there because, again, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson being two of the future points here, both coming over from Kansas City. Sean McVay had an interesting comment around that group. Here's what he had to say. McVay said those players are learning all of the spots on the back end of the defense, referring to the new group, and that you're seeing Trent McDuffie all over those spots. He said there are certain guys that will just play safety or just outside corner, but they have a lot of guys who can play safety, star, dime, and money positions. This is important. This goes back to why you love a guy like Trent McDuffie, but also why you love a guy like Cam Kinchins, why you love a guy like Quentin Lake, why you love a guy like Nizer Kyren. Excuse me. And it all comes down to versatility. All four of those names that I just listed have positional versatility. They can play a number of different spots for this Rams team. Trent McDuffie can be your number one boundary outside corner. Quentin Lake can play the nickel for you, but he can also play safety. Cam Kinchins can play safety, he can play nickel, he can play slot corner, he can play outside corner, he can really do it all. He can rush the passer from an outside linebacker position. We talked about that in our player profile of him. If you don't have a great appreciation for Cam Kinchins, make sure you go check out that video because I think it really does a good job, not to toot our own horn, of highlighting the talent that Cam Kinchins brings to this back end. But the versatility is incredibly important. I think you hear McVay talk about this. This is my steak is too buttery, my lobster is too buttery, my steak is too juicy type of problem to have. You have too many guys that can play so many different positions and so many talented guys that there's just not enough spots for everybody to get on the field at the same time. That's a great problem to have at the end of the day. I feel good about the top end of this Rams secondary depth chart and what they've done to address it. what they've done to ensure that last season's mistakes are not repeated. But I do truly think the depth still isn't there, and we're going to continue to discuss that this offseason, how the Rams can fill out that depth. If nobody big is stepping up this offseason, that's going to become a major narrative that we'll cover here on the Rams Report, but not on today's episode. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we appreciate your time, and we will see you tomorrow. As always, let's go Rams.